Hello. Alright, it's time for story time. This is called The Man Who Liked Robin Hood. Ron, a 48-year-old attorney who was separated from his wife, entered therapy because of depression, anxiety, and intense feelings of loneliness. His relationships with both men and women were highly problematic. He yearned for a close male friend, but had not had one since high school. His current relationships with men assumed one of two forms. Either he and the other man related in a highly competitive, antagonistic fashion, which veered dangerously close to combativeness, or he assumed an exceedingly dominant role and soon found the relationship empty and dull. His relationships with women had always followed a predictable sequence: instant attraction, a crescendo of passion, a rapid loss of interest. His love for his wife had withered years ago, and he was currently in the midst of a painful divorce. Intelligent and highly articulate, Ron immediately assumed a position of great influence in the group. He offered continuous streams of useful and thoughtful observations to the other members, yet kept his own pain and his own needs well concealed. He requested nothing and accepted nothing from me or my co-therapist. In fact, each time I set out to interact with Ron, I felt myself bracing for battle. His antagonistic resistance was so great that for months my major interaction with him consisted of repeatedly requesting him to examine his reluctance to experience me as someone who could offer help. "Ron," I suggested, giving it my best shot, "let's understand what's happening. You have many areas of your unhappiness in your life. I am an experienced therapist, and you come to me for help. You come regularly, you never miss a meeting, you pay me for my services, yet you systematically prevent me from helping you. Either you so hide your pain that I find little to offer you, or when I do extend some help, you reject it in one fashion or another. Reason dictates that we should be allies. Shouldn't we be working together to help you? Tell me, how does it come about that we are adversaries?" But even that failed to alter our relationship. Ron seemed bemused and skillfully and convincingly speculated that I might be identifying with one of my own problems other than his. His relationship with the other group members was characterized by his insistence on seeing them outside the group. He systematically arranged for some extra group activity with each of the members. He was a pilot and took some members flying, others sailing, others to lavish dinners. He gave legal advice to some and became romantically involved with one of the female members. And, the final straw, he invited my co-therapist for a skiing weekend. Furthermore, he refused to examine his behavior or to discuss these extra group meetings in the group, even though the pre-group preparation had emphasized to all the members that such unexamined, undiscussed extra group meetings generally sabotage therapy. After one meeting, when we pressured him unbearably to examine the meaning of the extra group invitations, especially the skiing invitation to my co-therapist, he left the session confused and shaken. On his way home, Ron unaccountably began to think of Robin Hood, his favorite childhood story, but something he had not thought of for decades. Following an impulse, he went directly to the children's section of the nearest public library to sit in a small child's chair and to read the story one more time. In a flash, the meaning of his behavior was illuminated. Why had the Robin Hood legend always fascinated and delighted him? Because Robin Hood rescued people, especially women, from tyrants. The motive had played a powerful role in his interior life, beginning with the Oedipal struggles in his own family. Later, in early adulthood, he built up a successful law firm by first assisting in a partnership and then enticing his boss's employees to work for him. He had often been most attracted to women who were attached to some powerful man. Even his motives for marrying were blurred. He could not distinguish between love for his wife and desire to rescue her from a tyrannical father. The first stage of interpersonal learning is pathology display. Ron's characteristic modes of relating to both men and women unfolded vividly in the microcosm of the group. His major interpersonal motive was to struggle with and to vanquish other men. He competed openly, and because of his intelligence and his great verbal skills, soon procured the dominant role in the group. He then began to mobilize the other members in the final conspiracy, the unseating of the therapist. He formed close alliances through extra group meetings and by placing other members in his debt by offering favors. Next, he endeavored to capture my women, which is in quotation marks, of course. First, the most attractive female member, and then my co-therapist. Not only was Ron's interpersonal pathology displayed in the group, but so were its adverse, self-defeating consequences. His struggles with men resulted in the undermining of the very reason why he had come to therapy, to obtain help. The therapist was a male. In fact, the competitive struggle was so powerful that any help I extended to him was experienced not as help but as defeat, a sign of weakness. Furthermore, the microcosm of the group revealed the consequences of his actions on the texture of his relationships with his peers. In time, the other members became aware that Ron did not really relate to them. He only appeared to relate to, but in actuality was using them as a way of relating to me, the powerful and feared male in the group. The others soon felt used, felt the absence of a genuine desire in Ron to know them, and gradually began to distance themselves from him. Only after Ron was able to understand and to alter his intense and distorted ways of relating to me was he able to turn to and relate in good faith to other members of the group. Now, I brought this story up because recently we have been talking about Vrittis, or attachments, in the study group that I belong to at the Magus Society. And so a lot of people think of attachments as basic things or as big things that they have to give up. You know, I have to denounce everything. And it's like, no, not yet. Actually, attachments are mainly attachments that we have as far as our self-identity and reflection. Generally, I think we all play with an archetype or a fictional figure that we see when we're a kid, that we play out over and over and over again until it becomes a habit, and then it becomes an identity that we assume. Whether this is done out of survival, out of a need to protect oneself from something, or in a way to relate to others, again, to protect oneself, right? To be able to feel loved, to feel affirmed by others. But in that process, we make agreements then with an identity that has certain attachments held onto it that we then relate to as our identity. And then there's a role for everyone else to play within that self-fulfilling prophecy. So, for example, right, this guy Ron, he was relating to people not because of their actual attributes, but because the role that they played in his fantasy of being Robin Hood, right? And being able to get to the therapist, to the one in charge, so then he can dismantle that person. Because in his mind, right, that was a twisted form of justice that he was playing out, not just for his survival, but for the survival of others or whatever, right? So in your own lives, and in my, and I do this in my life all the time too, look back at some of the fictional characters that you used to play. See if you created habits from that. I know one, for example, was I always played the misunderstood character, the one who had the hidden secret, that then when they got mad, like power came from them, right? And like lightning from fists, like all types of stuff. Well, you know how that played out though? I kept practicing that in my head over and over and over again. And when I would fly into rage, I would take that power that I felt and all of a sudden that character would come alive. And I wouldn't see how destructive it was, that my anger was, how much I was pushing people away and not coming with a positive solution to things, because the attachment I had to that idea, to that character, that you push me, but then when I get mad, you're all gonna listen. And the worst and most defeating part about it was that not everyone listens when you get mad. It's not how it works, right? So anyway, I wanted to bring this up because in our process of unwinding and unraveling how we relate to others and to ourselves, look at your own tendencies and how you react to someone. Are you talking to them? Are you relating to them? Do you not like them because maybe they remind you of someone else? Are you actually having a conversation with your mother or with your father or with that person who betrayed you? Or are you talking to the person? How are you talking to yourself? What is the character that you have made about yourself? Those are the attachments. And when we can really dive deep into those characters and those archetypes, can we then systematically start removing certain attachments that are no longer serving us, so we can create a new archetype, a new behavior pattern, a new personality, one that is open to change and one that is open to enlightenment of self, to self-realization. I hope this helped. Many, many blessings to you.